There is a specific kind of insomnia that I think a lot of people are painfully, intimately familiar with.
Hmm.
It's not the I drink a double espresso at 6 p.m. insomnia, and it's not, the I'm stressed about a deadline insomnia.
Right.
It's that 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling, hollow pit in your stomach insomnia where your brain decides to wake you up to ask the one question you have been running from all day.
The universal panic question. The one that feels like a threat.
Exactly. And that question is simply, do I actually love this person, or am I just terrified of being alone?
That is the heavy hitter, yeah. It's terrifying because once you actually articulate it, once you say it out loud, even just in your own head, you can't really unask it.
You can't.
You know that the answer, whatever it ends up being, has the power to just completely dismantle the life you've built.
It's huge. It could mean moving out, dividing assets, losing friends.
Everything. But the real problem, I think, isn't the question itself. The problem is that we aren't really given the tools to answer it. We have no diagnostic kit for love.
Right. I mean, think about how we are raised. Think about the movies, the songs, everything. Society is fantastic at teaching us what love is supposed to look like.
Oh, absolutely. The aesthetics.
We get the montage, we get the flowers, the dinner dates, the butterflies, the big dramatic airport chase scene in the pouring rain. But nobody teaches us what love is, structurally. We get the aesthetics, but not the architecture.
That is such a crucial distinction. We are obsessed with the aesthetics. So when things get confusing or, when they get hard, we don't know if we're looking at a structural failure in the foundation.
Or if we just need a new coat of paint.
Exactly. And we start misdiagnosing everything. We mistake anxiety for passion. We mistake attachment, which can just be the habit of being used to someone, for genuine connection.
And perhaps the most dangerous one, we mistake investment, all the time we've already put in, for intimacy.
That's the one that traps people.
And that is exactly what we are doing today. We are going to try and dismantle the facsimiles of love. We're going to strip away the aesthetics and look at the studs and the beams.
Get down to the architecture.
We've synthesized a massive amount of information here from neurobiology, behavioral psychology, attachment theory, and we are going to use it to explore the psychology of what we're calling pseudo-love.
We're going to decode the things that feel like love, but function more like traps. We'll look at limerence, which is that chemical obsession that hijacks your brain and really masquerades as a soulmate connection.
Okay.
We're going to talk about placeholder relationships, where you stay just for convenience or, well, out of fear.
Mm-hmm.
We'll break down the sunk cost fallacy, which explains why otherwise brilliant, rational people stay in miserable relationships for years too long.
And finally, we'll look at the actual undeniable signs that, you have fallen out of love.
The indicators that the bond is really broken.
So if you've been asking yourself that 3 a.m. question, we're about to give you the answer key. This might be a bit of a rough ride for some, but I think it's a necessary one. Let's dive in.
Let's do it.
I want to start with the chemistry set, because I think a lot of us believe that if we feel that an intense, electric, can't eat, can't sleep feeling, it must be love.
Of course.
That's the cultural definition of the one. If there are no fireworks, it's not real. But when we look at the neurobiology, that spark might actually be a biological trick.
It often is. And to understand why, we have to define our terms, because we tend to use love, lust, and obsession almost interchangeably.
Right. I'm obsessed with him is treated like a compliment.
Exactly. But your brain treats these as completely different states with different objectives and different chemical signatures.
Okay, let's break them down. Start with lust, because that's usually where it begins, right?
Usually. Lust is evolutionary. It's driven primarily by the desire for sexual gratification, for passing on genes. It's primal. But what's fascinating is the cognitive processing involved.
How your brain is working.
Right. When you're in lust, your brain utilizes what psychologists call local processing.
Local processing. What is that? What does that look like?
It means you are hyper-focused on specific details rather than the whole picture. It's like looking at a painting through a microscope.
Okay.
You're focused on the curve of a lip, the way they smell, a specific moment of physical intimacy. You are just zooming in on parts.
So it's detail-oriented, almost myopic.
Yeah.
You see the trees, but you definitely do not see the forest.
Very much so. Now contrast that with love. Love utilizes global processing.
The wide-angle lens.
The wide-angle lens, you see the whole person. You see their character, their flaws, their context, how they treat their mother, how they handle stress, their history. It's an affectional bond characterized by deep attachment and concern for their welfare.
Not just your own satisfaction.
Exactly.
Okay, so lust is, I want that part of you. And love is, I see all of you and I care about your well-being. But then there is this tricky middle ground, the danger zone, the place where all the confusion happens.
The danger zone. It's a state called limerence.
I love this term. It sounds like some kind of Victorian wasting disease. Oh, poor Edward is down with a bad case of limerence.
It does, doesn't it? But it's actually a distinct psychological state. It was coined back in the 70s, but it's more relevant now than ever in the age of dating apps and, instant gratification.
So what is it?
Limerence is an involuntary, obsessive state. And the key definition here, the thing to really hold on to, is that it is an acute longing for emotional reciprocation.
Reciprocation, that's the key word. So love is about, I care about you, but limerence is fundamentally about, I need you to care about me.
Precisely. It's self-referential. It's about satisfying a craving inside you. And the neurobiology of this is wild.
Okay.
When you are in that early stage of intense spark or limerence, your brain is literally being hijacked. We see massive activation in the VTA, the ventral tegmental area, and the nucleus accumbens.
Which are the reward centers of the brain, the pleasure centers.
The exact same areas that light up for cocaine addiction or gambling. It's the dopamine system going into overdrive.
So when people say love is a drug, they are not being poetic or metaphorical, they're being literal.
They are being clinically accurate. And like any addiction, it follows a very specific cycle: tolerance, withdrawal, and relapse.
Okay, so tolerance.
You build up a tolerance to the person. At first, a text message gives you a high for 3 hours. 2 weeks later, a text message does nothing. You need a phone call.
Then you need to see them.
You need more and more and more to get that same high. And when they're away, you feel actual physical pain. That's withdrawal. You feel sick, anxious, shaky.
And the chemical cocktail driving this is totally different from stable love, right? Because I think we confuse the anxiety of the chase with the feeling of love.
Mm-hmm.
We think if we aren't nauseous, we aren't in love.
That is such a dangerous misconception. In limerence, you're just swimming in dopamine and norepinephrine.
Okay, dopamine, that's the feel-good chemical.
Well, it's more the seeking chemical. It gives you that intense craving and focus. It makes you want, and norepinephrine is basically adrenaline. It gives you the energy, the racing heart, the sweaty palms. Yes. And here is where we need to have a serious reality check. We interpret butterflies, that fluttery, nervous feeling in your stomach, as true love.
Oh, he gives me butterflies. He must be the one.
We all say it. But physiologically, that is a stress response. That is your body's fight or flight mechanism reacting to uncertainty and threat.
So we're mistaking a panic attack for a soulmate connection.
Often, yes. In a long-term, secure attachment, real love, the dominant chemicals shift. You move away from that high-octane dopamine and into oxytocin and vasopressin.
The bonding hormones.
Those are the bonding hormones. They make you feel calm, safe, and secure. They actually lower your blood pressure.
That's a huge distinction. So if you are constantly feeling butterflies and this high-octane anxiety, that isn't sustainable love. That is your body on high alert. You're running a marathon every time you look at them.
Exactly. Real love is often much quieter than limerence. It doesn't scream, it hums.
So how do we tell the difference? Because in the beginning, everything feels intense. How do I know if I'm in love or just in a limerence spiral?
There are some very clear markers. The first is intrusive thoughts.
Okay.
In limerence, the thoughts are involuntary. You cannot stop thinking about them. It disrupts your work, your sleep, your friendships. You're replaying every text, every glance, analyzing the emoji choice.
It's like a song stuck in your head, but the song is a person, and you can't change the station.
That's a perfect way to put it. With love, the thoughts are intentional. You think about them, sure, you miss them, but you can still function.
Yeah.
You can still focus on a spreadsheet or a conversation with a friend without drifting off. Limerence demands 100% of your CPU. It just drains your battery.
Another big one we need to talk about is the pedestal.
Yes. Red flag blindness.
Yeah.
In limerence, you idealize the person to an impossible degree. You ignore clear signs of incompatibility because your brain needs the drug of them to be perfect.
So if they're rude to the waiter?
You say, oh, they just had a bad day. They're usually so sweet. If they don't call you, you say, they're just so busy and important. You rationalize everything.
Whereas in authentic love, you have what psychologists call the halo effect. It's different.
Right. The halo effect means you generally think well of them, you're on their team, but you see the flaws clearly.
You're not blind.
Not at all. You know they leave wet towels on the bed, or they're bad with money, or they get cranky when they're hungry. You see it and you accept it. You don't pretend it's not happening. Limerence denies the flaws even exist.
And I think the biggest tell, and the one that hurts the most, is the emotional instability.
The roller coaster. Limerence is defined by high highs and low lows, and it thrives on what we call the breadcrumb effect.
I hate the breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Explain that mechanism, because I think everyone has dealt with this, and it is maddening.
It's intermittent reinforcement. In behavioral psychology, it's the most powerful way to condition a behavior. It's how slot machines work. If you give a rat a pellet of food every time it presses a lever, it eventually gets bored. It knows the food is coming. It's predictable. But if you give the pellet randomly, sometimes yes, sometimes no, sometimes 5 times in a row, then nothing for a week, that rat will press the lever until it dies of exhaustion.
It's the unpredictability that creates the addiction.
Exactly. And in relationships, that looks like the partner who texts back instantly one day with heart emojis and says, "I miss you," and then ignores you for 3 days.
And that inconsistency keeps you hooked. You're waiting for the win. You're analyzing the pattern, trying to crack the code to get the pellet again.
While real love, by contrast, is kind of boring in the best way. It's consistent, it's safe, you aren't constantly wondering where you stand.
There's a great story that illustrates this perfectly. Let's call them Jim and Cindy. It's a classic case study of how this projection works in the real world.
Ah, Jim and Cindy. This is a perfect example of how lust and projection masquerade as love. So Jim meets Cindy at a party, and here's the kicker. His first impression is actually negative. Yeah, he thinks she has a resting bitch face and seems entitled. He judges her as a lust-only option, someone he'd sleep with but not date seriously.
Right. He's physically attracted, but he's already decided she's not wife material based on these really superficial traits. He's engaging in that local processing we talked about.
100%. But then she smiles at him, she engages, she laughs at his joke, and suddenly Jim's brain does a complete 180. He reframes her entirely.
Right.
He decides she's not entitled, she's misunderstood, she's guarded because she's been hurt. He starts projecting this whole fantasy that she's actually a nurturing, warm person deep down.
Despite having zero evidence for that.
Zero. He's writing a character description for a movie she didn't even audition for. He's directing a scene that isn't happening.
That's a good way to put it.
So they start dating, and it's all high-intensity, sexual tension, classic limerence. But then, inevitably, she ghosts him. Or she pulls away because, well, she's not actually that interested.
And Jim is devastated.
He thinks he's lost the love of his life. But when he looks back later with a clear head, he realizes he never actually knew Cindy. He was infatuated with the fantasy of her being this nurturing partner.
The reality is, Cindy was exactly who she seemed to be at the start. Maybe a bit cold, maybe not ready for a relationship. But Jim fell in love with the script in his own head.
And that is the key takeaway here. If your relationship feels like an audition where you are terrified of rejection, it is likely limerence. If you feel like you have to perform to keep them, that's not love. That's anxiety.
Which brings us to the next big trap. Loving the idea of a person versus the person themselves. This feels connected to Jim and Cindy, but it goes deeper. This is about what we bring to the table, our own voids.
It does. This is the projection problem. Many of us aren't falling in love with a human being. We are falling in love with a concept. Maybe we're in love with the idea of security. Maybe we're in love with status, dating the cool guy or the hot girl makes us feel cool or hot.
Or maybe we're just in love with the concept of not being alone. We use the partner to fill a void, like spackle.
Exactly. If you are using someone to fix your past or to validate your worth or to prove to your high school ex that you're desirable, you aren't seeing them. You're using them as a prop in your own life movie.
So how do you test this? Because nobody wants to admit they're doing that. It feels selfish. We all want to believe our love is pure.
There's a great little tool called the Litany of Traits test. It's very simple, but it's very hard to fake.
Okay.
Can you, right now, rattle off a specific list of their character traits, their quirks, and their behaviors that you adore?
Like, I love how he hums when he cooks, or I love how patient she is with her mom, or I love that they get genuinely excited about bird watching. Really specific stuff.
Exactly. Specifics, the details of their existence that have nothing to do with you. If the answer is vague, if you say things like, they're just nice, or we have fun, or, most tellingly, if you focus on how they make you feel.
I love that he worships me. I love that she needs me.
Then you are likely in love with the idea of them. You love what they do for you, not who they are.
Another sign is the renovation project. I think we've all been guilty of this one at some point.
Oh, this is huge. This is looking at a partner like a fixer-upper house. You aren't buying it for the foundation. You're buying it for what it could be if you knocked down a few walls and redid the kitchen.
The classic, he would be perfect IF.
If he just got a better job, if she just went to therapy, if he just dressed better, if she was just a little less jealous.
It's so dangerous.
It's fatal to a relationship because you are in love with a future potential version of them. And you cannot date potential. You have to date the reality.
It can.
If you can't love them as they are today, flaws and all, then you don't love them. You love your imaginary version of them. And honestly, it's disrespectful to them. You're telling them they aren't good enough as is.
There's also a linguistic clue here, right? The difference between me and we.
Yes. Pay attention to this next time you're talking to a friend. Listen to how you talk about the relationship. In happy, structurally sound relationships, people naturally switch to we language.
We are going to the store, we feel this way, we are worried about money.
Right. It signals solidarity. You are a unit. You face the world together.
And in idea relationships.
The narrative almost always remains me. What am I getting out of this? How does this affect me? I need him to do this for me. It's a subtle but powerful indicator of whether you're a team or just two individuals extracting value from each other.
Okay, let's move to the third trap. And this one is painfully common, the placeholder relationship.
This is a tough one to confront. A placeholder relationship is one that exists primarily for convenience, habit, or fear. It fills the gap until the real thing comes along.
It's the good enough for now partner, the warm body theory.
That's a grim way to put it, but yes. And the moral dilemma here is that often one person knows it's a placeholder while the other person thinks it's forever. And that is a devastating imbalance.
So what are the signs that you're in a placeholder dynamic? How do you know if you are the one holding the place or if you're the one using someone as a placeholder?
The biggest one is the future fog.
Future fog.
In a healthy relationship, even if you don't have a 5-year plan, you can imagine the future. You can picture them at your cousin's wedding next year. You can picture sitting on a porch with them when you're old. In a placeholder relationship, when you try to picture your life in 5 or 10 years with this person, you feel a sense of anxiety or just
Blankness?
you hit a wall. You can't visualize it.
Or you don't want to visualize it. You actively avoid discussing the future because deep down you know they aren't in it. You change the subject when they bring up next summer.
And then there's the someone better clause.
This is the brutal truth test.
No.
Ask yourself this. If your absolute dream partner, the one who checks every single box, physically, emotionally, intellectually, walked into the room tomorrow and asked you out, would you leave your current partner?
And if the answer is an immediate gut level yes, you're in a placeholder relationship.
Right.
If you are constantly scanning the room, keeping your options open, you aren't in. You are staying for convenience over connection.
Let's talk about that convenience. Why do we stay? If we know they aren't the one, why are we still there?
Because life is hard, and doing it alone is harder. Shared rent is a huge anchor in modern relationships.
Oh, for sure.
Having a +1 for weddings so you don't have to sit at the singles table is a real social pressure. Having someone to watch the dog. Avoiding the absolute nightmare of dating apps.
It's comfortable. It's easy. It's the path of least resistance.
But it's distinct from love because of the emotional withholding. You might have fun together, you might watch movies and eat pizza,
Yeah.
but you don't share your deepest vulnerabilities. You don't tell them your darkest fears.
You feel lonely while you are with them.
That is the hallmark of the placeholder.
And the consequence isn't just that you're wasting your time.
No, it's so much bigger than that. It blocks personal growth. Every day you spend in a placeholder relationship is a day you aren't available for the right relationship. It's a massive opportunity cost. You are cluttering your life with good enough, which leaves no room for great.
And eventually, it leads to resentment.
It has to, because deep down you know you're either using them or being used.
This leads us directly into why we stay in these things. Because usually we know on some level that it's not right. We know it's a placeholder, but we stay anyway. And that brings us to the sunk cost fallacy.
This is a concept borrowed from economics and gambling, but it applies so perfectly to love. A sunk cost is an investment money, time, effort that you have already made and you cannot get back. It's gone.
So if I buy a non-refundable ticket to a concert and then I get sick, the money is gone, whether I go or not.
Right. But the fallacy is thinking, well, I spent the money, so I have to go, even if I'm miserable and I'm going to make everyone else sick. You are making a decision about the future based on a cost from the past.
And in relationships, that sounds like I put 5 years into this relationship, We've been through so much. If I leave now, those 5 years were wasted.
Exactly, but the reality is those 5 years are gone whether you stay or leave. You cannot get them back. You can't get a refund on your 20s.
Right.
The only question that matters is this relationship working today? Is it going to work tomorrow? But we get weighed down by these anchors.
What are the big anchors? What keeps us stuck?
Time is the biggest one, especially as we get older. The fear of starting over from scratch at 30 or 40 or 50. The dating market feels terrifying.
Sure.
Then you have shared assets, the house, the dog, the joint bank account. Untangling those feels insurmountable. It's a logistical nightmare.
And social capital. I think people really underestimate this one.
Yes,
Yeah.
the shared friend group, the family expectations. Mom loves him. My sister is best friends with his sister. You don't want to blow up your social world. You don't want to lose the friends in the custody battle.
And finally, guilt.
The guilt of leaving a good person. This is huge. Often people stay because the partner hasn't done anything objectively wrong. There's no abuse, no cheating, no gambling addiction. They're just not the right person for you.
And we feel like we need a valid reason to leave, like we're building a court case.
Exactly. We feel like the bad guy for breaking someone's heart just because we aren't happy.
There is a really fascinating concept from relationship research, specifically focusing on how couples narrate their history, that helps predict whether these investments are actually dead. It's called the story of us switch.
This is crucial. Researchers have found they can predict whether a couple will split up with incredible accuracy just by listening to how they tell the story of their relationship.
Oh, so?
It's like a light switch. When the switch is on, happy couples recall their history with warmth. Even the bad times, the time the car broke down in the rain, the time they got lost in a foreign city, they glorify the struggle.
They spin it positively.
They say, we got through that together, it was a nightmare, but we laughed about it, it made us stronger, it becomes part of the legend of us.
It's us against the world.
But when the switch flips to off, and this is a sign of the sunk cost taking its toll, the narrative becomes bitter. They focus on bad first impressions. Yeah, he was late to our first date, which was typical. They recall the struggles as evidence of incompatibility. We got lost because he never asks for directions.
So they are rewriting history to justify the distance they feel now.
Exactly. Our memory is reconstructive. We rewrite the past to match our current emotions. And once that switch flips to negative, it is very, very hard to reverse. It means the negative sentiment override has taken control.
What's that?
It means you are now interpreting even neutral things through a negative lens. If they forget to buy milk, it's not just a mistake, it's a sign they don't respect you.
So the reality check for the sunk cost fallacy is pretty harsh.
It is. The reality is time spent is never wasted if you learned from it. You learned what you don't want. You learned how to handle conflict. That's valuable data. But staying in a dead relationship to save the past 5 years only guarantees that you will waste the next 5 years.
You are throwing good money after bad.
You are pot committed to a losing hand.
Okay. We've covered the fake outs, limerence, placeholders, sunk costs. Now I want to get to the point where the rubber meets the road. How do you really know, that you have fallen out of love? Not just that you're bored or in a rut, but that the bond is actually severed.
We talked about the story of us switch flipping. Now let's look at the day-to-day behaviors. The first sign is the shift from annoying to intolerable.
The chewing noise.
The chewing noise, the way they laugh, the way they breathe, the way they clear their throat. In love, quirks are endearing, or at least they're tolerable. Oh, that's just Jim.
Right.
When you fall out of love, those same quirks trigger irrational irritation. You feel a physical repulsion. You want to crawl out of your skin.
And this leads to what researchers famously call the 4 horsemen. These are the biblical predictors of the apocalypse for a relationship.
Yes. These are behavioral markers that signal the bond is breaking. The first is criticism, but not just complaining, it's attacking their character.
So the difference between I wish you'd taken out the trash and
You are so lazy, you never help me. One is about a behavior, the other is an attack on who they are as a person.
then defensiveness.
It's not my fault, it's yours. It's playing the victim, refusing to take responsibility, responding to a complaint with a counter-complaint. Well, you didn't do the dishes yesterday.
Right. Then stonewalling.
Shutting down, tuning out, physically turning away. It's a refusal to engage emotionally. The listener just stops responding to the speaker. It communicates, you are not worth my energy.
And the 4th one, the big one.
Contempt. This is the single biggest predictor of divorce. Contempt is disgust. It's rolling your eyes. It's mockery. It's talking down to them from a place of superiority.
Like correcting their grammar in front of friends.
Making fun of their interests. Contempt attacks the partner's immune system, literally and metaphorically. If you feel contempt for your partner, the love is effectively dead. It is very, very hard to come back from disgust.
That's heavy. But there's another sign that's almost quieter than contempt, and that's indifference.
Yes. We often think the opposite of love is hate. It's not. Hate requires passion. Hate requires energy. If you are screaming at each other, there is still something there to fight for.
The opposite of love is indifference.
It is. The roommate phase, but worse. It's when you stop caring enough to argue. You live parallel lives. You stop sharing love maps.
Love maps, what are those?
It's the mental map you have of your partner's inner world, knowing what they are worried about at work, knowing who at their job is annoying them, knowing their current dreams and fears. When you fall out of love, you stop updating the map.
You stop asking.
You don't know what they're feeling, and frankly, you don't care to ask. You just exist near them.
There is one incredibly important distinction we need to make here, though. Because sometimes we feel numb and we think we've fallen out of love, but it might actually be something else. It might be depression.
This is a critical differential diagnosis. If you are feeling numb, detached, and irritable, you have to ask, is it the relationship or is it me?
How do you tell the difference?
Look at the scope. With depression, you lose interest in everything. You don't care about your hobbies, you don't want to see your friends, you struggle at work. It's general anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure from anything.
And with falling out of love?
The loss of interest is specific. You are happy and energetic with your friends, you're excited about your job, you have hobbies you love. But the moment you walk through the door and see your partner, you drain. The battery dies. You feel heavy.
It is a relational issue, not a clinical one.
Exactly.
Wow. That is a really clear litmus test.
It is, and it's important because you don't want to throw away a good relationship just because you are going through a personal depressive episode. You need to treat the depression first. But if the light only goes out when they are in the room, well, the body is telling you something.
So we've unpacked a lot. We've looked at the chemicals, the psychological traps, the economic fallacies, and the behavioral signs. And for the listener at home, this might be a lot to process. It might be painful.
It usually is. Realizing you aren't in love or that you are in a placeholder relationship is incredibly painful. It feels like a failure. It feels like you've wasted time. But I want to reframe that. It is not a failure. It is a data point.
It's just truth.
It's truth. And the hardest truth is that often the cure for these pseudo-loves, limerence, placeholders is the one thing we are trying so desperately to avoid. Solitude.
Being alone.
Being alone. Sitting with yourself. Learning to find validation within yourself rather than using a partner as a mirror or a crutch.
Right.
Because you can only love someone authentically when you don't need them to complete you. You want them, but you don't need them to survive emotionally.
I want to leave our listeners with a final thought.
Yeah.
A way to cut through the noise if they are still on the fence, if they are lying in bed tonight asking that question.
I love this thought experiment. It's a time travel question. I want you to close your eyes. Seriously, do it. Imagine it is 5 years in the future.
Okay. 5 years from now, I'm older.
Option A, you are exactly where you are now. Same partner, same dynamic, same fights, same feelings. Nothing has changed.
Okay, got it.
Option B, you are alone, you are single, but you are at peace, you have your own space, you have your calm, you are free.
Oof.
Which vision brings you a physical sense of relief?
I think for a lot of people, that relief is instant. They take a breath they didn't even know they were holding.
And that's the answer. Often, the relief of the breakup happens the moment you decide to do it because your body has known the truth long before your brain was willing to admit it.
That is powerful. Listen, if you're realizing today that you might be in a placeholder or a limerence cycle, don't beat yourself up. We've all been there. But also, don't ignore the data.
Seek connections that are safe. Seek connections that are mutual. And honestly, seek connections that are a little bit boring. Because that's where the real stuff lives.
Boring in the best possible way. I love that. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Always a pleasure.
Take care of yourselves out there. See you next time.